CPS does serve a purpose. It does. The whole crux of the business is to keep children safe.
When people hear the term social worker, usually they think first to CPS. And when they think of CPS, they think of kids being removed from their homes. Friends, welcome to the Solely Human podcast. My name is Jasmine Naomi, and I'm your host. I'm a clinical therapist here in Southern California, and when I'm not doing therapy, I'm doing this. So, Solely Human is a podcast where we talk about the human experiences that we've had, and we kind of connect and learn about each other in that way. But we also talk about the fact that we're also soul, and our soul is what connects us to ourselves, to the people around us, and to the universe around us. So I'm really excited because I have a special guest with me here today. Angela, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Angela, I have known Angela for a while now, for a few years, actually. Time flies. So when I was in my undergraduate program, I did an internship as we're required to do for our bachelor's in social work. And so for my senior year, Angela was my supervisor. So I did my internship with Child Protective Services for Riverside County and learned a lot. Learned a lot. We'll talk more about it. But ever since then, Angela's been a great mentor and just a friend. And I'm blessed to have so many women that I look up to in my life, and Angela being one of them. So I'm so excited that she's here. So Angela, can you introduce yourself, tell us who you are without including your job, what you've done for work. Okay. So I know you're not working right now, but introduce yourself.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on to talk. It's so great to see you. My name is Angela Clark. I have worked for Child Protective Services for almost 20 years, and I've dedicated my life to serving others. It has always been a passion for me. I graduated with a degree in human services from the University of Phoenix and a master's from Loma Linda University, and I went right into social work practice. And I joined CPS in 2006, started off 3 years as a social worker, and then was promoted to a supervisor / child and family team facilitator. So that's a little bit of my background. My other part that I wanted to share was I come from a family of 12 children. And I grew up in poverty and saw a lot of domestic violence and substance use. And I think that's what drove my soul to get into this profession of helping others. And it actually has been the best decision I ever made in my life.
I was going to ask how your life experience is connected to what you spent so much time doing, but it sounds like that's what pushed you in that direction.
No, yes, it absolutely really did. I think growing up in a household of chaos and seeing so many different things as a young child, I was always really resilient, hypervigilant, and really, really smart to be my age. So my surroundings affected me in a huge way. Yeah. So I think that is what has always driven me to help others. And I was raised Catholic in the Catholic Church all my life. And just that experience also really tapped me into just the beauty of life, giving, feeling the love of God and the universe, and everything that happens for a reason. And I think no matter what I went through, I always had a positive outlook about life. Very intuitive feeling kind of person.
Yeah. And I think that has maintained all throughout, even at work, I know you carried that energy. And so before I ask you more about like CFTMs and what that is, for the people that don't know, When outside of when you weren't giving, or I know that you constantly remain like, helping and giving and wanting to pour into others. Outside of that, who are you, would you say? Like, what are other things that define you?
Oh, I think of a multitude of things.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm an auntie. I'm a cousin. I am a poetess.
Yes.
Which now that I'm retired, I have time to work on. I am a writer. I love to write, period, about everything. I also am a painter and I draw. And I think those are my vehicles that I use to maintain my grounding and just my inner peace and centeredness. Because my brain lights up with music, poetry, art.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I surround myself in. And I know that I am a loving being. I've always wanted to be a beneficial presence on this earth while I'm here.
Yeah.
And I don't think everyone has an opportunity to find their purpose. But when you find it, it's a very good thing.
All that time that you spent working for CPS, do you feel that was a part of your purpose?
Yes, I do. I think when you say Child Protective Services, I think people have a certain opinion about who we are and what we do. And,
yeah, definitely.
And if we're doing any good or serving any purpose. CPS does serve a purpose. It does. The whole crux of the business is to keep children safe, as well as help parents reunite with their children. Everybody's experience is not a bad one. Over my past 20 years there, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen things that normal people will never see.
Yeah.
But I think seeing those things has also made me the person that I am. It's really humbled me. So I think you have to go through the journey. It's not for everyone. But obviously, I wouldn't have stayed 20 years if it wasn't for me.
Right.
If it wasn't for me. But in the end, and I'll be honest, the first 3 years as a social worker, that was the most difficult time.
Yeah.
Because I had seen things in my own childhood, but nothing compared to some of the things that I saw as a social worker. At that time, my caseload was at 52. 52 children, all their parents, all the foster homes, all the hospitals, everything that you deal with connected to that child. And I found myself getting burnt out because the caseload was too high and I was working 7 days a week and I couldn't keep going at that pace forever.
No, there's no way. After the 3 years as a social worker, and actually, let me say this for those listening that don't know. When people hear the term social worker, usually they think first to CPS. And when they think of CPS, they think of kids being removed from their homes. So I'll say the first thing being that social work is a very broad and open term, okay? The profession of social work is huge, from hospital to school to forensics to clinical mental health and therapy to social services. So I say that to kind of hopefully take away from the stigma of the term social worker a little bit, because social workers work everywhere. When you think of a social worker in Child Protective Services that you're referencing, there are also different types of social workers in Child Protective Services, right?
Absolutely.
So what would be a few of those?
We have social workers that are front-end social workers. They're the emergency social workers that the minute we get a call from the hotline, they're on the front line. They go out, they confront the parents, they work with law enforcement. So those are the first line of social workers. The back-end workers, well, let me go back. There's a middle social worker that's just the JD writer.
Okay.
Those are the ones who get the case after the emergency response social worker gets the case. They write that 35-page court report that they have to present to the court, the reasons why they removed the child, and the court has to agree with them and then open up a case. The back end workers, which is is a case carrying social worker. And that's a social worker that carries the caseloads I was talking about in the beginning. I had 52. They carry those caseloads to the end until the parents reunite or until the children are adopted out. And we also have adoptive social workers. We have social workers that work with group home children. And I ran meetings for all genres of social worker at CPS. But I will tell you one thing I want to tell everyone. If you get a job at CPS and you work there even 3 years, it will prepare you to work anywhere because you see a whole gamut of substance abuse, domestic violence, mental illness. You deal with it all.
Yeah.
And it does help you build, a foundation for yourself to get out there and do something else. And it could be anything. Nothing is as tantamount as Child Protective Services.
Well, because when I think about social services and what that entails, and Child Protective Services specifically, if a kid is being removed from their home, that means that genuinely the child's life or safety is at risk.
Yes.
Correct?
Exactly.
And so for the kiddo to be in a circumstance like that, the parents or caregivers, because I know it's not always parents, caregivers of this child are likely dealing with their own very human experiences that are making it difficult and sometimes incapable of even providing like basic needs for a kiddo.
No, that's totally correct. We usually remove because of general neglect or safety in terms of domestic violence and substance abuse or mental illness. The parents are incapacitated at that time, or they're not taking medication and they're unstable and they can't keep the children. So I think overall, Child Protective Services does a good job at keeping children safe. It's just the media and the whole stigma behind social worker.
Yeah.
We don't get the recognition that we should get because we are out there protecting children.
Right. And as a child, as a CFTM facilitator, if you can first tell us what CFTM means, what it is, and how you were working with these families and these kids within that role.
Good question. So for 17 years, I was a child and family team facilitator. Now, what that basically encompasses is there's a team of people that come together to service the parents and the children. So I ran meetings where I think the most people I had was 35 people in a room. So that includes the social worker, the parents, the children, the foster parents, the mental health professionals, substance abuse professionals, group home professionals. We invite service providers like parenting classes, people that offer parenting classes, people that are clinicians also sit at that table. Because what I basically did was I had a service plan, and that service plan included the emotional, behavioral, mental health, school, down to what the child's hobbies, what they like to do for recreation, their support network. The service plan that I developed during this meeting was a combination of everybody giving input on how we can best service the child. And we also talked to the parents about parent partners that we provide for them through their journey, the court process, the dates of the next court hearing, why we're having that court hearing. So I was a different type of facilitator because I really care. And I actually have love and passion for these families.
Yeah.
So I took the time to sit, meet them where they were and hear their voice because that was very, very important.
When you say meet them where they were, that is such a crucial I think that's so important. Can you tell us what that means to you?
Yeah, what that meant to me is oftentimes when parents come into Child Protective Services, they are assigned a social worker, but they go through 3 different social workers. And sometimes they feel alone and nobody's listening to their voice and they don't have an input on anything. A case plan is just thrown at them that they didn't help develop. When you meet a person where they are, you are not judging them. You are not looking at their situation or even what they did to a child. You are meeting them right where they are, and you're looking them dead in the eye and asking them, what is it that you need? How can I service you? Tell me what your journey is. What do you think it's going to take to get your kids back? Why do you think we removed your children? So I have found in my experience all those years that when you do that, they relax. And they just flow with information. And they have all kind of ideas on who their support system is. We don't need to tell them. Many of them know exactly what mental health diagnosis they have, and they'll tell you. Sometimes it's access to prescription medication, it's access to getting different types of services. And if we have a hard time developing a case plan, just imagine a parent.
Yeah. Well, and this is, I would argue, probably one of the most difficult moments in a person's life for the kid, for the parent, for whoever's involved, family-wise. It's just a really difficult time. So to have team members like yourself and others involved that are listening and present, I think that makes such a big difference, because it's not an easy thing to navigate, with access and services and all the team members involved. And so it can get a lot.
That's a good point. Yeah. No, that's a very good point, Jasmine, because people think it's easy, and I've probably made it look easy because I did it for so many years, but it is quite a task to manage 30-something people in a room and have everyone reach a consensus where you move the meeting where at the end it's actually productive and it services the family.
Right. Talk about having meetings and productivity. I can sit in so many meetings, does not mean that anything came of them. It's the intentionality behind the meeting that will really get you where you want to go by the end of the meeting. So that is a skill, definitely. When working with these parents, was there anything that you saw time and time again with parents that are in this circumstance, so trying to reunify with their children? Was there anything common between these different families or caregivers that you're working with?
Yeah, I think one of the recurring thing was the confusion with CPS period, the process.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't get people at the beginning, you lose them.
Okay.
And if there's a social worker just coming in there for a minute to hand you some brochures and tell you what you need to go to court and this is what you need to do, and you don't understand the process, most people that were successful with reunifying with their children were the people that understood the process, because somebody in the beginning took the time to sit down with them and explain the process. So eventually we did get CPS parent partners, people that had already went through that experience and successfully reunified with their children. That was helpful. Yeah. But they also need a team. They need a team around them constantly that includes a lot of different people, like the social worker, the service providers, their clinician, the court, everybody working together, to get them what they need. So I think one of those recurring things with parents, that was the key. Okay. And language barriers. Okay. Were a lot of, because we get people from all different types of dialects and countries. So the language barrier was a big key in getting interpreters that could really interpret well. Especially with the Hispanic community. The Asian community, and then cultural sensitivity. Because a lot of our African-American families and Asian and Hispanic, those children don't reunify as fast because we don't understand the culture. And we go in there and try to set down things that we don't understand because we didn't ask. But if you ask, like, how do you comb an African-American child's hair? What products do you use? You have to get creative and think out of the box.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to meet them and ask them. Ask the parents. They may not have their kids. They may have abused them, but they know their culture. Right. And I think we need to respect that. And lastly, with children, I always met with the children first before I even brought the parents in. I would explain to the parents that we're just going to talk to the children for a minute to see what they're feeling, where they are, especially children who are in group home and children who have been sex trafficked and children that have been so abused and jumped through foster homes because of behaviors. Always met with them first, just to sit down and say, how you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you want to get out? Do you know what this meeting is about? What do you need? How can we service you? So it's a lot of different gamuts to the CPS process. And even with the new age with our LGBT community, it's huge. It's like you just can't sit there and not understand when they're telling you, this is how I want to be addressed. This is the type of home I would like to be placed in. So do you see the magnitude of...
Yeah, there's all these different things to consider. And I think it sounds like you were very intentional in giving these kids voices when you could. And giving the caregivers voices. But it's like the kids already have minimal to no control in these things that are happening in their life right now. So even to meet with them before this very full, chaotic meeting at times to say, do you know what this is? And is there anything you want to be brought up or talked about? I think even inserting those small moments of choices really like empower them that, hey, you do have a voice, you know, with all this happening, there's still opportunities for you to talk and we will listen. So there's just all these things to consider. With these caregivers, when you're holding these meetings and talking with these kids and caregivers and team members, did you ever find it difficult to have empathy for the caregivers there?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of we talk about balance all the time. And I think one of the keys to a successful facilitator, you have got to be able to have the emotional intelligence to read everybody in that room and hear from everybody. And yes, I can honestly tell you, I had passion and empathy for everybody that was at the table because caregivers, we had like a separate meeting with them, you know, to get whatever questions they had, answer those questions. They had secondary trauma too. Some of them didn't want to give up the kids because they loved them and they wanted to keep. Some of them sabotaged reunification, and we had to have another meeting where the children had to be moved to another home. So it's a lot of balancing people. But I think I'm going to get back to that. Whenever you're in this profession, you have to always go back to the reason you got into it. Because if you connect with your own feelings and you process your own feelings, I always was able to service people. People would tell me, well, you know, you've been here 17 years doing this. You don't have, no, I'm here for them. I'm here to serve them. And I think that came from me centering myself, taking care of myself, number one, centering myself, knowing that everybody had a voice at that table. Everybody had to be heard at every single meeting, no matter what.
Yeah. How is it? Because it's a very difficult space to be in. You're working with difficult cases, and those meetings can be very emotional sometimes. It's just a difficult place to be. So how did you, for that long of a period of time, center yourself and stay in that space?
I think is very important when you're in this profession to have someone in the profession to talk to. Now, I've once talked to a therapist through our EAP program, Employee Assistance Program. But that wasn't as helpful for me. It was better to have someone, a cohort or a person that you work with or someone that's in the same field that can understand when you're talking, because these are things I shared with my husband, but it's only so much stuff he could listen to.
Yeah.
Because some of it was so horrific, he got to a point he didn't want to listen to it anymore. So it became very important for me to have a person. That person doesn't have to be within your agency. It could be somebody at another agency, but just someone that understands what secondary trauma is, the things you see on a day-to-day basis, a sounding board, a support person, and also self-care is huge. We burn out. That's why we burn out. I was blessed that after 3 years of being a social worker in the field, I got promoted to supervisor and a facilitator. That was my saving grace because I was giving too much of myself, not taking care of myself. But I learned to do that over the years. So I don't care if it's a weekend jaunt, if it's a bubble bath, is it you doing a crossword puzzle or sitting with some friends with a glass of wine or whatever it may be. You have to, on a weekly basis, self-care. I know walking was wonderful for me. I still walk 3 to 4 miles 3 times a week, clear my head. I love massages. They're heaven if you get a good masseuse.
Right. That's the key word in that sentence. Good. Tell us about meditation for you. What does that look like for you?
I meditate when I wake up every morning, and it's a beautiful thing. I don't meditate for hours. I meditate for about 30, 35 minutes.
Okay.
It sets the scheme for the day. I set my intentions. Today, this is what I plan to do. This is how my day is going to look like. I actually lay down and I do a body scan.
Okay.
And I do breath work because that helps me center every nerve in my fiber in my body, know that I'm a healthy being, taking care of myself. I shut out all the noise. It's just peace.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful process. It took me a long time to get to 30 minutes because I was just sitting there like, oh my God, and you want to have your brain keep going, but you have to turn it off. And I think through meditation, breath work, because I do a lot of breathing exercise.
Yeah.
And I also like chi exercises. They really help me get in balance with my body, mind and soul. So those are practices that even into my retirement, I'm enjoying. And I think I just have a joyful life. I really do. I still have a lot of energy at 65. I still have tons of energy. And I look forward to what the day is going to bring me, what the universe is going to bring me. Because the energy that you emit, if it's positive, it comes back to you in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you said 30 to 35 minutes. That's a long time to meditate. I don't think I've really gotten past maybe 8 minutes at this point.
Just keep working at it. I know my husband said he meditates for an hour or over an hour, but
wow,
I thought I can't do it. But 30 minutes does me well.
Maybe that's what he's doing in his office. He's meditating.
Yeah. Yes, he probably is.
For hours at a time. At this point, because that takes practice. That takes a lot of practice.
He's years in the making. I told him I'm not there yet, and I may never be. I like where I'm at right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think that in having spent so much time working with families and you navigating how to balance and take care of yourself in the process, I think that that's something a lot of people can relate to because we live in a culture where work is everything. It's just so, I think it's glorified. The more you work, the better, the more efficient you are, the more successful you are. When it's working is not what is supposed to be fueling you, you know? It's just one thing that, if anything, supports you in doing the things that fill you. And it's just one part of our lives. And so it can be so easily everything, and we get consumed by it, and we start to feel like if we're not doing enough of it, then maybe we're not good enough, or maybe we're failing in some type of way, when really that's just, I think, our conditioning of what work does for us in our lives. But so I think it's just something that I continue to learn and continue to talk with people about, because really prioritizing our emotional, our mental, our spiritual needs is important.
No. I am so glad you said that, Jasmine. Those are words of wisdom. Those are golden, especially for you to say that at this juncture in your life, you already get it.
Thank you.
And I just want to tell everyone, you are replaceable at your job. Don't ever think you're not.
Right.
They will replace you in a minute. And that's why it's important to stay focused on, work is fabulous. Yeah, we have to live. We have to pay the mortgage, rent, car notes. We have to do all of that. But I think I learned that too the last 10 years. Work is not everything. And I stopped doing that. I'm a machine. And I was working 50, 60 hours a week. And I needed to stop doing that, because that will affect your emotional health and your physical health.
Yeah.
So you do have to kind of focus on what's important. If you know whatever job you're doing, you have a passion for it and you're good at it, you will learn how to balance that time. Because if you're good at it, then that means that you are doing something good for someone else. And I think it always gets back to our purpose. Whatever job you take, let it be your passion. Because if it's your passion, it kind of starts flowing easy and it's better to handle and manage. But if it's not, you're just clocking in, collecting a check.
Right. I'm glad you said the phrase, you are replaceable at your job.
Yes.
Because when we hear that, I think some people would be quick to go, you know?
Yeah.
But if that is your reaction to that statement, I think that's because you have placed some of your worth in this job, whatever it is. So to hear that you could be replaced, it's like a shot to the heart, right?
Yes.
However, I think there is freedom in that statement.
It is.
You are replaceable at your job because you're an employee. I think it's a great reminder, because that means that they are not placing their worth in you.
No.
So you're free to show up,
Yes.
do your job well,
Yes.
leave your job,
Yes.
and then that's it.
Yes, because you are not your job.
Right.
A lot of people tie their identity, a la, you go places, you're at social gatherings. Oh, what do you do for a living? I got to a point where I stopped saying I work for CPS or I'm a social worker. I just didn't even do that.
Yeah.
I'm in the mental health field. And leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not my job. I'm not my job. I'm not my degrees. And you asked me earlier when we start this, who are you?
Yeah.
So I think you really have to marinate in that. I know that I have 5 children. I'm a mother. I love being a mother. Love my children.
Yeah.
They're all grown.
Yeah.
But being a mother was important to me. I love being a wife. I love being an artist.
Yeah.
That's my separate thing. I love writing poetry.
Yeah.
Since I've retired, I've written so many volumes of poetry. I'm trying to put them all together so I can produce some books from that.
Yeah.
So I just think your outlook has to look different. Don't tie yourself into your job. That's not your identity. The fact that you make 6 figures a year is not your identity. Your house is not your identity, because all those things can be taken in a blink of an eye.
Right.
They really can.
Right.
That's why I think you have to go to your core being of who you are as a spiritual being on this planet. And I think it'll be a guiding force for you.
I agree 100%. I think that when we work in the field that we work in, because we have such love for it and because we have such passion for it, it is not who I am, but it does fuel a part of my soul, right? The service to others, the care for others. And it's a big part of us, right? But the job is addressing the part of us that loves to help, that loves to listen, that loves to be in healing spaces. And so the job is one outlet to do that. And so it's a beautiful thing when you feel full with your job. But I have found that the times that I attribute like my worth and my existence to my job, then I start to hate it because it's a completely different level of like stress and unhealthy attachment going on to the expectations, and it's just not good. So I think that it's just a nice reminder. And I know just now you mentioned all these other roles that you love being in spaces and a part of. So I want to take that opportunity to ask you, as we wrap up today, what it is that fuels your soul.
That's a good question. And I just think life. Seriously.
I believe it.
Waking up every morning and breathing, I thank the universe for breathing life into me every day. And I know when you're young, you see things a certain way, but trust me, as you get older, time goes by like that. It just goes by really quick before you look up. Oh my God. So at this stage in my life, it's what would Erickson say is maturity versus stagnation. You're either going to maturate and evolve to a higher level, or you're going to be stagnant and stuck. I am definitely maturating because I just think this is another phase in my life, and I'm so excited about all the infinite possibilities that this age is going to bring me. There are so many things that I have yet to do that I want to do, and I'm excited about it. I love traveling with my husband, and we have the time now. Kids are gone, so we can travel to different places and see things through others' eyes. Because when you leave this country and you meet other people in different countries, I've traveled a lot. They view us in a totally different way than we view ourselves. So part of learning humanity is getting out there, traveling, learning different cultures. And it's just all a beautiful, beautiful experience. When I was in Egypt, just seeing all the different tribes and the people coming together, and they had such a sense of community that we don't have here. And they look at us in a different way because of that. But I think sometimes you just have to get back to the simple things. The simple things, not all this keeping up with the Joneses, or I got to be the Instagram influencer, or whatever you may call it. You have to just get back to the simple things that, like every morning going in my backyard, seeing the hummingbirds and my purple flowers. I love that. Just hearing the peace and quiet at night of the universe. It's those simple things that keep me rooted and going. So I have a zeal for life.
My hope is to be you. Be as fueled as you are by just your surroundings. And, you know, I can say that when I wake up, I do thank God every morning for waking me up, because, you know, it's not a given. And there's just so many things happening in our world. And so life is a blessing, you know, it's not a given. So I can relate to that.
That's true. I'm glad you can. I'm glad you see it.
Really absolutely.
Is this true?
Thank you so much, Angela, for
you're
coming
welcome.
on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm going to do my spiel and then we're good.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening or watching to the Solely Human podcast. As you go into your week or your day, please be empathetic with yourself the way you would be someone that you love and someone that you care about. Be kind to yourself the way you speak to yourself, and just be patient. You know, we're all human and you're doing your best, and take it one day at a time. So episodes release, well, actually now they release. I'm changing things up, guys. So I'll post a video soon about it, but I'm going to change some things in when Solely Human releases episodes, just because your girl's about to be busy teaching a class. So, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you later.